The small survey ship Prospector drifted through the purple clouds of the uncharted nebula. Its engines hummed softly as it moved deeper into the colorful gas clouds that most ships avoided. Commander Marcus Reed stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the main screen. "Anything yet, Tom?" Reed asked, rubbing his tired eyes. Thomas Reeves shook his head as he checked the sensor readings. "Nothing valuable, Commander. Just more gas and dust." He tapped his screen with frustration. "We've been searching for 3 weeks now. Maybe High Command was wrong about resources in this sector." Reed nodded but said nothing. Their mission was simple: find new materials to help the war effort. Humanity needed metals, fuel, and anything else they could use against the Vex Imperium. For 30 years, humans had been losing ground to these aliens. Each year, the Vex took another colony, another mining station, another piece of human space. "Wait," called Dr. Eliza Ward from her station. The engineer pointed at her screen. "I'm getting an odd reading about 20,000 kilometers to our port side." "More space junk?" Reed asked. They had found plenty of that already. "No." Ward adjusted her instruments. "It's big, really big, and it's giving off a faint energy signature." "Put it on the main screen," Reed ordered. The screen flickered and zoomed in on a dark shape hidden within the nebula's gases. At first, it looked like an asteroid, but as the image cleared, everyone on the bridge fell silent. "That's a ship," whispered Dr. James Miller, the team's xenobiologist. "A human ship." Reed stared in disbelief. The vessel was massive, at least a kilometer long. Its dark hull was shaped like an arrow, with what looked like weapon ports along its sides. Though parts of it showed damage, the ship was largely intact. "Run an identification scan," Reed ordered. Reeves worked quickly, his fingers flying over his console. "Sir, this can't be right. According to the database, this ship matches the profile of the UES Thunderchild." "That's impossible," Ward said. "The Thunderchild was destroyed at the Battle of Proxima Centauri over 200 years ago." "It's a legend." Reed had heard the stories. The Thunderchild was the pride of the first expansion fleet, humanity's most powerful warship, lost during humanity's first major space war. Some claimed it had weapons that could destroy whole fleets and armor that nothing could penetrate. "Legend or not, that ship is there," Reed said. "And if even half the stories are true, what we found could change everything." He turned to his crew. "Prepare a boarding team. We're going to take a closer look." 2 hours later, Reed floated through the empty, dark halls of the massive ship with Ward, Reeves, and Miller. Their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing corridors that seemed to go on forever. "Main power has been offline for centuries," Ward said, checking her scanner. "But there's still a minimal energy signature coming from somewhere deep inside." "Look at the size of these hallways," Miller said in awe. "They built ships differently back then." Reeves ran his hand along a wall. "The metal feels strange, almost warm." Reed's communicator beeped. "Commander," came the voice of Lieutenant Davis from the Prospector. "We're picking up 3 ships entering the nebula. Configuration matches Vex scout vessels." Reed cursed. "Have they spotted us?" "Unknown, sir, but they're heading in your direction." "Understood. Stand by for emergency extraction." Reed turned to his team. "We need to move quickly. Let's find the bridge." They pushed deeper into the ship, following schematics that Reeves had pulled from the historical database. As they moved, Reed couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. After navigating through massive empty chambers and pitch-black corridors, they reached a sealed door with faded lettering. "Command Bridge." "This is it," Ward said, examining the door's control panel. "It's locked, but I might be able to." A distant boom echoed through the ship, making them all freeze. "What was that?" Miller whispered. Reed's communicator crackled. "Commander, the Vex ships have opened fire on the Prospector. We're taking heavy damage. We can't." The transmission cut off. Davis? Reed called, but there was no answer. They found us, Reeves said grimly. The prospector is gone. We're stranded. Another explosion, closer this time, rocked the ship. They're boarding, Reed realized. We need to find somewhere to hide. Ward worked frantically on the door panel. Almost got it. There. The ancient door slid open with a hiss, revealing a massive circular room filled with control stations, all dark and silent. In the center stood a raised platform with what looked like a captain's chair. They rushed inside, and Reeves sealed the door behind them. We need weapons, a way to contact help, or a miracle, Reed said, scanning the bridge. Look for anything useful. Ward moved to what appeared to be the main console. Some of these systems might still work. Let me try to. She touched the console, and suddenly, faint blue lights began to glow across the bridge. A soft hum grew around them as dormant systems stirred to life. What did you do? Reed asked. Nothing. A holographic sphere appeared above the central platform, pulsing gently. When it spoke, its voice was deep and clear. Unauthorized personnel detected on command bridge. Initiating security protocols. Miller stepped back. Is that an eye? Atlas defense system online. Ship status. Critical. Power levels. Minimal. Crew count. 0. Time since last active duty. 217 years. 43 days, 7 hours. Reed stepped forward. We're humans from the United Earth Fleet. We found your ship drifting. The blue sphere pulsed. Scanning. Human life signs confirmed. Current military identification recognized. Status of the first expansion war. Reed looked at his companions in confusion. The first expansion war ended over 2 centuries ago. The sphere dimmed for a moment. Processing historical data update. Current threat assessment required. We're being hunted by Vex troops, Reed explained. They destroyed our ship. They'll find us soon. Vex Imperium forces detected aboard this vessel. Atlas confirmed. Initiating minimal defense protocols with available power. Throughout the ship, they heard systems powering up. Lights flickered on in the bridge, and screens came to life, showing different areas of the ship where dark figures moved swiftly through the corridors. What is this ship? Reed asked. The historical records say the UES Thunderchild was destroyed. This is indeed the United Earth ship Thunderchild, Atlas replied. Battle Dreadnought, Titan class. I am Atlas, the ship's command artificial intelligence. The Thunderchild was critically damaged, but not destroyed. Emergency protocols initiated a blind jump to prevent capture. After arrival in this nebula, all non-essential systems were shut down to preserve core functionality. A loud bang came from outside the bridge door. The Vex had found them. Can you help us? Reed asked desperately. Can this ship still fight? The blue sphere grew brighter. The Thunderchild was built for one purpose, Commander Reed, to protect humanity. With minimal power, I can activate basic defense systems. With your assistance, I can do more. Another bang, louder this time. The door wouldn't hold much longer. What do you need from us? Reed asked. Your authorization to awaken this ship. Atlas replied. To bring the Thunderchild back to war. Reed looked at his team, then back at the glowing sphere. Do it. The lights on the bridge grew brighter. Throughout the massive vessel, long dormant systems began to power up. The deck hummed beneath their feet. Thunderchild awakening protocols initiated, Atlas announced. And Commander, the stars will burn. The bridge of the Thunderchild hummed with increasing power as lights flickered on across the massive control room. Reed and his team watched in awe as ancient screens came to life, showing the status of the enormous ship. Warning, Atlas announced, its blue sphere pulsing with each word. Vex forces have breached Deck 7. Internal defense systems activating. On one of the screens, they watched as hidden panels in the ship's corridors slid open. Small turrets emerged and fired precise energy bursts at the alien intruders. The Vex soldiers scattered, clearly surprised by the sudden defense. "Those weapons still work after 2 centuries?" Reeves asked in disbelief. "The Thunderchild was designed to endure," Atlas replied. "However, current power levels are at 12% of capacity. Full combat capabilities cannot be restored without repairs." Another explosion shook the ship. Ward grabbed a console to steady herself. "They're using heavy weapons," she warned. "Even a ship this size can't take that kind of punishment forever." Reed studied the ship's layout on a nearby screen. "Atlas, is there a way to get this ship moving? Can we escape?" "Main engines are offline," the AI responded. "However, maneuvering thrusters have minimal functionality. With proper authorization, I can activate the emergency jump drive, but it requires significant power redirection." Reed nodded. "Do it. What do you need from us?" "Dr. Ward must go to the engine control room to manually override safety protocols," Atlas explained, highlighting a path on one of the screens. "Mr. Reeves will need to access the weapon control center to divert power from secondary weapon systems. Commander Reed and Dr. Miller should remain here to coordinate." "Split up?" Miller asked nervously. "With those things hunting us, I will provide guidance and protection where possible," Atlas assured them. "This is our only option for survival." Reed looked at his team. "We don't have a choice. Ward, Reeves, be careful." Dr. Ward moved cautiously through the massive ship, following Atlas's directions through her communicator. The corridors were better lit now, but still full of shadows. "Take the next left," Atlas instructed. "The engine control room is 200 meters ahead." "Atlas," Ward said as she walked, "how did this ship survive?" "The history books say the Thunderchild was destroyed protecting civilian ships." "That was the official report," Atlas replied. "The truth is more complex. The Thunderchild was critically damaged in the battle. Captain Amelia Drake, knowing the ship would be captured, activated the experimental jump drive with no destination set. Her final order was, 'Anywhere but here.' She sacrificed herself," Ward realized. "The entire crew did. The jump drive was untested. They knew the chances of survival were minimal. But they also knew the ship's technology could not fall into enemy hands." Ward reached a massive door marked Engine Control. It slid open as she approached. "So the ship jumped here, to this nebula," she said, entering the room, "and has been drifting ever since." "Correct. With critical damage and minimal power, I placed all systems in dormancy to preserve core functionality. I have waited 217 years for human contact." The engine control room was enormous, filled with complex machinery that hummed with building energy. Ward approached the main console. "What now?" she asked. "You must override the safety protocols," Atlas explained. "The console will require DNA verification to confirm human authorization." Ward placed her hand on the scanner. A beam of light passed over it. "Human DNA confirmed," Atlas announced. "Safety protocols disengage. Engine power building." Meanwhile, Reeves made his way to the weapon control center. Unlike Ward, he hadn't been lucky enough to avoid the aliens. Twice he had to hide as Vex patrols passed by, their odd, clicking language echoing in the corridors. "You're almost there," Atlas guided him. "The weapon control center is just ahead." "There are too many of them," Reeves whispered. "How did they get a boarding party this large on the ship so quickly?" "Scans indicate they have brought a cruiser alongside the Thunderchild," Atlas replied. "They are cutting through the hull in multiple locations." "They're trying to take the ship," Reeves realized. "They want its technology." "That cannot be allowed," Atlas stated firmly. "The weapons systems of the Thunderchild are beyond anything in the current human arsenal. If the Vex obtain them, humanity will face extinction." Reeves finally reached the weapon control center, a circular room with stations for what would have been dozens of weapons officers. Now it stood empty, with only the soft glow of reactivated screens. "What do I do?" he asked. "Access the main terminal. I need you to manually reroute power from the secondary weapon arrays to the jump drive." Reeves worked quickly, following Atlas's instructions. As screens showed power levels shifting, a sudden alarm blared. "Incoming Vex units," Atlas warned. "3 soldiers approaching your position." Reeves looked around desperately for a weapon, but found nothing. "I can't fight 3 of them." "You won't have to," Atlas replied. The door to the weapon control center sealed shut. "I have locked down this section. Focus on your task." Reeves heard banging on the door as he worked. "They'll break through eventually. Then we must be gone before that happens." On the bridge, Reed and Miller monitored the ship's status as power levels gradually increased. "Ward and Reeves have successfully completed their tasks," Atlas reported. "Jump drive power at 60%, sufficient for a short-range jump." "How far can we go?" Reed asked. "Approximately 5 light-years, enough to reach the edge of this nebula." Miller pointed at one of the screens. "Commander, look at this." The screen showed the Vex cruiser attached to the Thunderchild like a parasite. More alien soldiers poured into the human ship. "We need to go now," Reed decided. "Atlas, can you seal off the sections they breach? Cut them off from the rest of the ship?" "Affirmative." Bulkhead doors closing. Throughout the ship, massive doors slammed shut, trapping many of the Vex invaders. Those caught between sections found themselves facing the ship's internal defenses. "Jump drive at 72% and rising," Atlas announced. "Calculating jump coordinates." The ship shuddered as the Vex cruiser fired its weapons at the Thunderchild's hull. "Can this ship take that kind of punishment?" Miller asked nervously. "The Thunderchild has survived worse," Atlas replied. "However, our shields remain offline, initiating jump in 30 seconds. Reed watched as the countdown appeared on the main screen. "What about Ward and Reeves?" "They're still out there." "Internal transport system activated," Atlas said. In moments, the doors to the bridge slid open, and Ward and Reeves rushed in, looking relieved but exhausted. "That was close," Ward said, catching her breath. "The ship, it moved us here somehow." "Emergency transport tubes," Atlas explained, "for quick movement of officers during battle." The ship rocked violently as another blast hit the hull. "Hull breach on Deck 12, Atlas reported. "Jump drive at 94%. 10 seconds to jump." Reed looked at his team. 4 humans on a ship designed for thousands, about to take a 2-century-old vessel on its first jump in over 200 years. "Everyone hold on to something," he ordered. The bridge filled with a blue glow as the jump drive engaged. Outside, space itself seemed to bend around the massive warship. "Jump drive engaged," Atlas announced. The Thunderchild rises again. In a flash of brilliant light, the ancient battleship disappeared, leaving behind a very surprised Vex cruiser and its boarding parties, now trapped in sealed sections of a ship that was no longer there. The first step in the resurrection of humanity's greatest weapon had begun. A blinding flash lit up the bridge as the Thunderchild tore through space. The ancient jump drive hummed loudly, sending vibrations throughout the massive ship. Reed and his team clung to whatever they could grab as the vessel shuddered around them. "Jump stabilizing," Atlas announced, its blue sphere pulsing steadily, exiting hyperspace in 3, 2, 1. The flashing light faded, and the violent shaking stopped. On the main screen, stars appeared where before there had been only the purple gases of the nebula. "Jump complete," Atlas reported. "Current location: Sector 47B, approximately 4.7 light-years from previous position." Ward checked the nearest console. Power levels down to 23%. That jump took a lot out of the old girl. The jump drive was not meant to be used with such low power reserves, Atlas explained. Damage assessment underway. Reeves studied a star chart that had appeared on one of the screens. We're at the edge of chartered space. The nearest human outpost should be about 12 light-years from here. Can we make another jump? Reed asked. Not immediately, Atlas replied. The drive requires 6 hours to recharge under current power conditions. Miller pointed at a blinking alert on another screen. What's that? Long-range sensors have detected multiple ships approaching our position, Atlas said. Configuration matches Vex patrol vessels. Estimated arrival: 20 minutes. Reed frowned. How did they find us so quickly? The jump created a detectable energy signature, Atlas explained, and the Thunderchild is a large target. So we can't run, Reed said grimly. Can we fight? Primary weapon systems remain offline, Atlas reported. However, defensive capabilities can be brought online with the available power. What kind of defensive capabilities? Reeves asked. The Aegis shield, Atlas replied. The Thunderchild's most advanced defense system. It was experimental technology, even at the time of this ship's construction. Ward looked up from her console. I've studied old war records. The Aegis shield was theoretical, a defensive system that could absorb enemy fire and convert it to usable energy. It is more than theoretical, Dr. Ward, Atlas said. It was successfully installed on this vessel, though never used in full combat conditions before the Battle of Proxima Centauri. Reed straightened his back. Can we use it now? Yes, but it will require manual activation from the shield control room, Atlas said. The automated systems were damaged in the ship's final battle. Where is this control room? Reed asked. Deck 17, Section C. Atlas replied, highlighting a location on the ship's schematic. Dr. Ward should go. Her engineering expertise will be needed. Reed nodded. Ward, you go activate the shield. Miller, see if you can access any data on Vex tactical patterns from the ship's archives. Reeves, keep working on restoring more systems. I'll stay here and coordinate with Atlas. As the team split up again, Reed turned to the eye's glowing blue sphere. Be honest with me, Atlas. What are our chances? The Thunderchild was the most powerful warship ever built by humanity. Commander, Atlas replied. Even at reduced capacity, we have advantages the Vex cannot anticipate. Dr. Ward hurried through the corridors of Deck 17, following Atlas's directions through her communicator. Unlike the clean, well-lit command areas, this part of the ship showed clear battle damage from centuries ago. Walls were scorched, and occasionally she had to climb over debris. The shield control room is just ahead, Atlas guided her. Vex vessels will arrive in 12 minutes. Ward reached a sealed door marked with a symbol she didn't recognize. This is it. Yes, place your hand on the scanner for authorization. When Ward touched the panel, the door hissed open, revealing a circular room with a raised platform in the center. The platform held what looked like a control pillar with handprints marked on either side. What is this? She asked, approaching the pillar. The Aegis shield's direct interface, Atlas explained. It was designed to link directly with a human operator in emergency situations. Link directly? Ward asked nervously. It will form a temporary neural connection, allowing you to shape the shield's energy through your thoughts. The process is not harmful, but it may be disorienting. Ward took a deep breath. Will it work? After all this time? The system has been in stasis, not shut down, Atlas replied. It should function as designed. With no other choice, Ward stepped onto the platform and placed her hands on the marked spots. Immediately, blue light flowed up her arms like liquid. She gasped as strange sensations flooded her mind. What's happening? She whispered. Neural link established, Atlas reported. The Aegis shield is now online and under your control, Dr. Ward. On the bridge, Reed watched as the main screen showed 5 Vex warships approaching. They were sleek, predatory-looking vessels, each armed with weapons that could tear apart normal human ships. They'll be in firing range in 2 minutes, Reed reported. Miller looked up from his console. "Commander, I've found something in the archives. Tactical data on early Vex encounters. Information we thought was lost when their homeworld was destroyed." "Can it help us now?" Reed asked. "Maybe. According to this, Vex ships have a weakness at their engine exhaust ports. Their shields are thinnest there. Not much use without weapons," Reeves muttered. The ship's comm system activated. "Commander," Ward's voice came through, sounding strange and distant. "The shield is online. I can feel it. It's like nothing I've ever experienced." "Vex ships charging weapons," Reeves warned. "Atlas, can we hail them?" Reed asked. "Buy some time. Communications are functional, but inadvisable," Atlas replied. "Vex protocol is to open fire on human vessels without warning." As if to confirm this, bright beams of energy shot from the lead Vex ship, striking the Thunderchild's hull. Instead of the expected explosion, the point of impact glowed blue. Energy seemed to flow across the ship's surface like water. "Shield holding," Atlas reported. "Energy absorption at 12% and rising." More Vex ships fired, their weapons hitting the Thunderchild from different angles. Each impact created the same flowing blue energy across the ship's hull. "Dr. Ward, status," Reed called. "It's incredible," Ward responded, her voice filled with wonder. "I can feel their attacks. The shield is turning their energy against them. Power levels rising to 30, now 35%. Reed couldn't believe what he was seeing. The more the Vex fired, the stronger the Thunderchild became. "They're moving to surround us," Reeves reported. "Let them come," Reed said with growing confidence. "Atlas, are any weapons systems available now?" "Point defense turrets can be brought online with current power levels," Atlas replied. "Do it." Small turrets emerged from hidden ports along the Thunderchild's hull. They fired precise energy pulses at the closest Vex ship, targeting the area Miller had identified. The alien vessel shuddered as the blasts pierced its weakened shields. "Direct hit," Reeves exclaimed. The damaged Vex ship tried to pull away, but more turrets tracked it, firing continuously at its vulnerable point. Suddenly, the alien vessel exploded in a ball of blue fire. The remaining Vex ships stopped firing and began to retreat. "They're running," Miller said in disbelief. "The Thunderchild was a legend for a reason," Atlas stated. "And now the Vex have rediscovered why." Ward returned to the bridge, looking exhausted but exhilarated. "The shield is stable. Power levels at 42% and holding." Reed looked at his small crew with pride. "Good work, everyone. But this is just the beginning. The Vex will be back, and in greater numbers." "Then we'd better be ready," Reeves said. Reed nodded. "Atlas, plot a course for the nearest human outpost. It's time to bring the Thunderchild home." The Thunderchild moved slowly through space, its massive engines running at only half power. 3 days had passed since their encounter with the Vex patrol ships. With each passing hour, the ancient battleship recovered more of its strength as systems came back online and power levels increased. On the bridge, Reed studied the star chart displayed on the main screen. "How much longer until we reach Epsilon Outpost?" he asked. "Approximately 6 hours at current speed," Atlas replied, its blue sphere hovering steadily above the command platform. "The outpost's defense grid will detect us when we are 2 hours out. And they won't be happy to see us," Reeves added from his station. "An unidentified ship this size will put them on high alert." Reed nodded. Epsilon Outpost was humanity's furthest military installation, a defensive platform guarding the approach to the inner colonies. Any unknown vessel approaching it would be treated as a threat. "We'll need to contact them before we get too close," Reed said. "Atlas, can you broadcast on current military frequencies?" "Yes, Commander." Communication systems are now at 76% functionality. Miller entered the bridge, carrying a small device. Over the past days, the xenobiologist had been exploring the vast ship, discovering its secrets. "Commander, I think you should see this." He placed the device on a console, and a holographic display appeared above it. "I found this in the science lab on Deck 9. It's a complete tactical database of Vex fleet movements from the first expansion era." Reed's eyes widened. This data was lost when the Proxima Centauri archives were destroyed. "Not lost," Miller said excitedly. "Just hidden here on the Thunderchild. And there's more. Look at this comparison." The hologram shifted to show two ship designs side by side, one clearly Vex, the other human. "The propulsion systems are nearly identical," Ward said, joining them at the console. "How is that possible?" "The Vex didn't develop their technology on their own," Miller explained. "They reverse-engineered it from captured human ships, including systems similar to the Thunderchild's." Reed stared at the display. "So all this time, we've been fighting against our own technology." "More advanced versions of it," Miller nodded. "But now we have the original designs. We can find their weaknesses because they're built on our own work." "This information could change everything," Reed said. "At last, how much of your weapon systems are now operational?" "Primary weapon arrays at 54% capacity," the AI reported. "Secondary defense systems at 68%. The Aegis shield is fully functional thanks to Dr. Ward's calibrations." Reed turned to his small crew. "We're bringing back more than just a legendary ship. We're bringing back the knowledge humanity needs to win this war." 2 hours from Epsilon Outpost, the Thunderchild was spotted by long-range sensors. Immediately, alarms sounded throughout the human facility. Admiral Laura Bennett stood in the Outpost's command center, watching as technicians tracked the approaching vessel. "What do you mean you can't identify it?" she demanded of her sensor officer. "Something that size should be in our database. It's not matching any known configuration." "Admiral," the officer replied nervously. It's huge, at least a kilometer long." "Vex?" Bennett asked. "No, ma'am. The design appears human, but older somehow." A communications officer called out. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the vessel." "Put it through," Bennett ordered. The main screen flickered to life, showing Reed's face. "Epsilon Outpost. This is Commander Marcus Reed of the United Earth Fleet. Authorization code Sierra Tango 217. Bennett stepped forward. "Commander Reed, your survey ship was reported missing 3 weeks ago." "My original ship was destroyed, Admiral," Reed replied. "But we found something else." He stepped back, allowing the camera to show more of the Thunderchild's bridge. "We're aboard the UES Thunderchild." A stunned silence fell over the command center. "That's impossible," Bennett finally said. "The Thunderchild was lost 2 centuries ago." "Not lost, Admiral. Just waiting to be found. Request permission to dock for repairs and crew transfer." Bennett hesitated, then nodded to her officers. "Prepare a security team and clear docking bay 1. If this is some kind of trick." The Thunderchild dwarfed the outpost as it approached. Workers and soldiers gathered at viewports to watch the legendary ship's arrival. Many took pictures with their personal devices, and soon news of the vessel's return spread across human communications networks. When Reed and his team stepped off the ship, they were met by Admiral Bennett and 24 armed guards. "I apologize for the welcome," Bennett said, eyeing them cautiously. "But you understand our concern." "I do," Reed replied. "If you'd like to come aboard and see for yourself, Admiral, I think you'll find it answers most of your questions." Bennett followed Reed into the Thunderchild, her security team close behind. As they walked through the massive corridors, the Admiral's expression shifted from suspicion to awe. "This is really it," she whispered. "The Thunderchild. My grandfather used to tell me stories." When they reached the bridge, Atlas greeted them, its blue sphere materializing above the command platform. "Welcome aboard, Admiral Bennett. I am Atlas, the ship's artificial intelligence." Bennett approached the hologram cautiously. How has this ship survived all these years? As Atlas explained the Thunderchild's history, engineers from the Outpost began examining the vessel's systems. Word of the ship's return traveled quickly, and within hours, the highest levels of Earth Command knew of the discovery. High Command is sending a battle group to escort you to Earth, Bennett told Reed later that day. They're calling this the most significant discovery in 50 years of war. Reed nodded. The ship is important, but what's inside it may be even more valuable. He showed her the tactical data Miller had found. The Thunderchild isn't just a weapon, it's the key to understanding Vex technology. This could change everything, Bennett said, examining the data. There's something else you should know, Reed added. Atlas will only accept commands from me and my team. It's part of the ship's security protocols. It won't recognize any authority but ours. Bennett frowned. That could be a problem. High Command will want control of the ship. They can try. Atlas's voice came from nearby. But the Thunderchild was designed with safeguards against forcible commandeering. Captain Drake's final orders were explicit. The ship chooses its crew. Bennett looked between Reed and the AI's hologram. This will cause complications. Perhaps, Reed agreed. But right now, we have a bigger problem. Long-range sensors detected a large Vex fleet massing near the new Tera colony. They're preparing for a major assault. New Tera has minimal defenses, Bennett said gravely. If it falls, the Vex will have a clear path to Earth. Reed looked around at the bridge of the mighty warship. Then perhaps it's time for the Thunderchild to return to battle. Your crew consists of 4 people, Bennett pointed out. You can't operate a ship this size in combat. We've managed so far, Reed replied. But you're right. We'll need help. He turned to the Admiral. Can you provide experienced officers? Bennett thought for a moment, then nodded. I can give you a skeleton crew, my best people. Good, Reed said. Atlas, set course for New Tera. It's time for the Vex to learn that humanity has remembered how to bite back. The Thunderchild moved through space with renewed purpose, its engines glowing bright blue against the darkness. The ancient battleship was no longer alone. 6 human warships surrounded it, forming a protective escort as they approached the new Tera colony. On the bridge, Reed sat in the captain's chair, watching the main screen with steady eyes. Around him, the bridge buzzed with activity. Admiral Bennett had provided 30 experienced officers to help operate the massive vessel, though Reed and his original team maintained key positions. New Tera defense perimeter in range, Reeves reported from the tactical station. Colony sensors have detected us. Open a channel, Reed ordered. The screen changed to show the face of General Mark Wilson, commander of New Tera's defense force. His expression was grim. Admiral Bennett informed me you were coming, Commander Reed. Wilson said, I hope that old ship has more than just stories to offer. The Vex fleet will arrive in less than 3 hours. How many ships? Reed asked. 47 at last count. 3 times the size of our defense fleet. Reed nodded. The Thunderchild will hold the center of your formation. Have your ships follow our lead. Wilson looked skeptical, but nodded. We'll take all the help we can get, even from ghosts. When the transmission ended, Ward approached Reed. Our power levels are at 89%. It's not perfect, but it's the best we can do without a proper refit. It will have to be enough, Reed replied. Atlas, what's the status of the Prometheus array? The AI's blue sphere appeared beside him. The Prometheus array is operational at 76% capacity. However, I must remind you that this weapon system was never field-tested. What exactly is the Prometheus array? Bennett asked. She had insisted on joining them for the battle. Miller answered from his science station. According to the ship's database, it's a network of artificially created gravitational lenses. Theoretically, it can capture and redirect energy, even stellar energy. In simpler terms, Reed explained, it can turn the enemy's weapons against them, on a massive scale. Bennett's eyes widened. And this technology has existed for 2 centuries. It was too dangerous, Atlas said. After the Battle of Proxima Centauri, all research into such weapons was abandoned. The Thunderchild contains the only working prototype. Reed stood and addressed the bridge crew. I won't lie to you. We're outnumbered and facing an enemy that has defeated humanity at every turn for 30 years. But this ship was built to change the course of wars. Today, we'll see if it still can. 3 hours later, the Vex fleet arrived. The alien armada emerged from hyperspace like a swarm of metal predators. Their ships were sleek and deadly, arranged in attack formation around a massive central vessel, the Vex command ship. They're twice the size we expected. Wilson's voice came through the comm system. His ships formed a defensive line in front of the colony. Hold position. Reed ordered calmly. Let them come to us. The Thunderchild floated at the center of the human formation, its kilometer-long hull dwarfing even the largest human warships. For several minutes, nothing happened as the two fleets faced each other across the void. They're scanning us, Miller reported, paying special attention to the Thunderchild. They're trying to figure out what we are, Reed said. Suddenly, the Vex ships began to move. Their formation split into 3 attack groups, moving to surround the human fleet. They're trying to flank us, Reed warned. Let them, Reed replied. Atlas, activate the Aegis shield. Full coverage. Shield activated, Atlas confirmed. A blue glow spread across the Thunderchild's hull, gradually extending outward to encompass the nearby human ships. What are you doing? Bennett asked. Sharing our protection, Reed explained. The shield can extend to cover nearby vessels. On the battlefield, the Vex fired first. Hundreds of energy beams struck the blue shield surrounding the human ships. Instead of explosions, the points of impact glowed brightly as the shield absorbed the energy. Shield holding, Ward reported. Power levels rising with each hit. Return fire, Reed ordered. The Thunderchild's weapon ports opened, revealing rows of energy cannons that had remained hidden for centuries. They fired in perfect synchronization, each blast striking with precision at the weak points Miller had identified in the Vex ship's designs. 3 Vex vessels exploded immediately. Their shields, designed to stop modern human weapons, proved useless against the ancient technology they were based on. The Vex responded by intensifying their attack, focusing all fire on the Thunderchild. The shield glowed brighter with each impact. They recognized the ship, Miller realized. They know what it is. Power levels at 112% and rising, Ward reported with amazement. The shield is converting their energy faster than we can use it. The battle continued as the human fleet, protected by the Thunderchild's shield, began to advance. More Vex ships fell to the ancient battleship's weapons. Then the massive Vex command ship moved forward. Its front section opened to reveal what looked like a miniature sun, a weapon capable of destroying planets. They're charging their Nova cannon, Reed warned. That thing could vaporize the colony. At last, Reed said calmly, activate the Prometheus array. Activating now, the eye replied. Target locked. From ports along the Thunderchild's hull, small satellite-like devices emerge, arranging themselves in a complex pattern between the human fleet and the Vex command ship. What's happening? Bennett asked. Watch, Reed said simply. The Vex Nova cannon fired, releasing a beam of pure stellar energy that streaked toward New Tera. When it reached the Prometheus array, something extraordinary happened. The beam seemed to bend, caught by the gravitational lenses. It hung suspended for a moment, a stream of fire frozen in space. Redirecting energy, Atlas announced. The captured beam suddenly reversed direction, splitting into dozens of smaller beams that struck the Vex fleet from multiple angles. Ship after ship exploded as their own weapons' energy tore through them. The command ship took the brunt of the redirected energy. Its shields failed instantly, and its hull began to break apart. In a cascade of explosions, the massive vessel split in two, then dissolved into a field of debris. Silence fell across the battlefield as both sides processed what had just happened. All Vex ships are retreating, Reeves reported, his voice filled with disbelief. On the main screen, they watched as the surviving alien vessels jumped away, fleeing from the power they couldn't comprehend. Reed turned to his crew. "Send word to Earth Command. Tell them humanity just won its first major victory in 30 years. And it won't be the last." Bennett stared at him. "What happens now?" Reed looked around at the bridge of the legendary warship that had changed the course of the war in a single battle. "Now, Admiral, we take the fight to them. The Thunderchild has returned, and the stars will burn until humanity is safe again." As the human fleet regrouped around the ancient battleship, news of the victory spread across human space. For the first time in 3 decades, people looked to the stars not with fear, but with hope. The forgotten battleship had awakened, and the Vex would learn to fear its name.